Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show, where you will find tools you can use to transform your life right here on the OMTimes Radio Network, the voice of consciousness. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I am here live every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern, sharing enlightening conversations that create connections soul to soul and provide valuable information and resources that will inspire you to expand into more of who you truly are so that you can step more boldly into more of what you love and desire to receive in your life. For more information about me, please go to my website, intuitivetransformations.net. That's intuitivetransformations.net, and take advantage of a complimentary 15-minute consultation while you're there, and send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Now, if you live in the United States, or if you get U.S. news living abroad, then I am certain that you are becoming increasingly aware that the United States could certainly use some loving, positive thoughts these days. As a matter of fact, the entire planet. Just a few days ago, 9 lives were tragically lost, and many were injured at a community college in the state of Oregon. So I want to invite all of you listening to please take a moment in your day, in your evening, to send unconditional love, healing prayers, and light-filled intentions to all of those involved and to all of those affected. It has become pretty obvious that humanity as a whole is in a desperate need for love. Not just any kind of love, though. I'm talking about the love that is birthed from the heart of unconditional knowing. Unconditional love, which is forgiveness of all things. This is a love that holds no judgments, no criticisms, a love that truly holds no fear and only knows that love itself is all that is real. In my heart of hearts, I want nothing more than for the world to feel more safe, more whole, and to feel more love. And this is not for myself. This is for everyone on the planet, because everyone on the planet is a part of who I am. We're really just all one being known as humanity. I'm not sure how we get to that place, but I do know this. We have got to get there. There is this really beautiful book, or rather a collection of books, known as A Course in Miracles. And this book offers many wonderful teachings, including that our only purpose really is to forgive, that is our sole purpose, is to forgive. In the very first page of the introduction to A Course in Miracles, it says, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists, and herein lies the peace of God." So let me try to decipher that for you. Love is the only thing that is real, and anything else is simply an illusion or an obstacle to the awareness of love's eternal presence as the only thing that is real. No matter what is happening in the world today, it is not nearly as important as your awareness that the only thing real in this world is eternal, unconditional love. When we allow ourselves to drop the illusion that we are separated from a divine creative intelligence that lovingly supports all things, is in all things, is all things, and fills the inner spaces of all things, then we will begin to know that nothing can separate us from the divine love of the Creator of all that is. And then that is when our world will heal. It is that shift in perception that A Course in Miracles calls a true miracle. For those of you who have read the show description page, the title is correctly named A Course in Miracles because in honor of the 50-year anniversary of A Course in Miracles, I am very fortunate to have joining me today an incredible guest whose name many of you will recognize. His name is James Twyman, and he has created a feature documentary film titled A Course in Miracles, which is a musical tribute to the life-changing body of work known around the globe as A Course in Miracles. That was written, and get this, it was written by Jesus. I know you're wondering what, if you haven't read it. That's why you're going to want to listen to this show. And it was channeled by a woman by the name of Helen Schumann just about 50 years ago. And James is here to share with us his insights on A Course in Miracles and to talk about his new movie and where you will be able to see it. For those of you who do not know who James Twyman is, let me tell you a little bit about this remarkable gentleman known by many as the Peace Troubadour. James Twyman is a best-selling author. He's a producer and director and a professional musician, singer, and songwriter. He is the New York Times best-selling author of 15 books, including Emissary of Light, The Barn Dance, and what he is most known for, The Moses Code. In 1994, he put the peace prayers from 12 major religions to music and began traveling the world, often being invited by world leaders and peace organizations to perform his peace prayers in countries that were at war. James has performed in Bosnia, Iraq, Serbia, South Africa, Israel, North Ireland, and many other places. He has produced 7 music CDs and is the producer-director of 5 films, including the award-winning Indigo and Redwood Highway. And James currently leads over 15,000 people every day in the 365 daily A Course in Miracles lessons that he has set to music. James Twyman has collaborated with a long list of spiritual luminaries, including the late Dr. Wayne Dwyer, Neil Donald Walsh, Colette Baron Reed, and Marianne Williamson, just to name a few. James is also the founder of the Beloved Community, which is a network of spiritual peace ministers around the globe, and he's the founder of the Seminary of Spiritual Peacemaking, which has graduated and ordained over 500 ministers. James leads over 15,000 people a day, as I mentioned before, in the daily Course in Miracles lessons, and he offers an assortment of online courses on his website, jamestwyman.com, and he continues to travel the globe, spreading the message of peace through word and music. James lives in Portland, Oregon, and is joining us live today via Skype. Hello, James Twyman. How are you? And welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm fantastic, and I'm so happy to be here.
And I am thrilled that you are here.
Thank you.
This is such a perfect time to have this discussion, don't you think?
Oh, yes. Here I am in Oregon, and it seems that something tragic has happened again. And it's important for us to look at the mechanisms of miraculous thinking, especially at times like this when it seems so dark and we seem helpless in the face of such tragedies, and to know that we're not helpless at all, and that we can create and uncreate at will. And as A Course in Miracles describes, that we are the We are the manifestors of our own reality, and we can choose what that reality is. And this is the time, I think, for us to be doing just that.
I think it is too. I mean, it's such a time as this where that message is being trumpeted, not just from A Course in Miracles, from Law of Attraction. I mean, it's coming at us from many different avenues, and it's a constant theme of we do create our own reality. And I like how you started with miraculous thinking.
Well, yes, thank you for noticing that, because there are two ways of thinking, just as there are two laws of attraction. We can think through the lens of separation, or we can think through the lens of our soul. And the soul leads to the miraculous, whereas the ego just continues to lead to where we've always been, longing for what we never seem to get. And you mentioned the law of attraction. I remember when I first wrote the book, The Moses Code, it was actually in reaction to a movie that I think many people probably saw called The Secret. Mm-hmm. And I saw that movie and I thought, this is an important film. However, it was just the beginning of the story. It was something that needed to continue. And so I decided to write a book on the soul's law of attraction. And so that's really where we're headed, I think, to realize that the soul is in charge, and it is through that lens that the miracle is made manifest.
And isn't that beautiful? Because when I hear you say soul, what I think I hear you saying is that it is not, it's the soul of all that we all share, right?
Exactly, yes. I mean, we each have our own individual experience of that soul, but there is only, as A Course in Miracles would say, there's only one Son of God.
Yes.
Where it talks about the Christ, and I love this. It says, the Christ is the extension of the love and the loveliness of God known as you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Everyone stay tuned. We're going to a break. We will be back in just a few moments. I have James Twyman here. Please stay tuned. This conversation is just for you. We'll be back in a moment.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Intuitive Transformations with Sylvia Henderson, and I have with me my very special guest, Mr. James Twyman, who is releasing a musical documentary film called A Course in Miracles. And he and I, before the break, were beginning our conversation about the book which his film is based upon, A Course in Miracles. So, James, before the break, you had mentioned a couple of things that those who have not read The Course in Miracles may not be familiar with in terms of what separation is, and then even longing for what we never seem to get. Can you elaborate on those two?
Well, I was speaking about the difference between the ego's law of attraction, which is based upon a mantra of only two words, and those words are, I want. And the soul's law of attraction, which is the exact opposite, which is based on the mantra, I am. And this is something I wrote about in the book, The Moses Code, and the movie, The Moses Code. And it really is the fulfillment of the law of attraction, because when we're looking through the lens of the ego, we see what we don't have, what we could have that would somehow make our life better, somehow improve things for us. And yet it's always like a carrot on the stick. The mantra, I want, it never ends. There's always a myriad of things that we want that we think we don't have. But when we understand that everything we could possibly ever long for is within us now, and we long only to experience that through the extension, or in other words, to be the source of what my soul is longing for. I am that, which is the name of God from the story of Moses at the burning bush. This allows us to then be the source, as I said before, the source of goodness rather than goods. And when we come from this place, then miracles are natural. And we're talking about A Course in Miracles, obviously. And I should probably tell the background a little bit for those who are not fully familiar. You mentioned a little bit. You said that it was written by Jesus, and that's quite a bomb to drop. But if it's okay, maybe I'll just tell a little bit.
No, please go right ahead.
Because it's such a fascinating story. In fact, I think the story of how this happened was as incredible as the teaching itself. First of all, there are many people, as we know, who claim to be having conversations with angels and channeling other beings. And often these are people who then write books and are on tour or whatever it may be. But this is a story that starts off very differently. Back in 1965, so this, as you said, is the 50th anniversary. Just in a couple of weeks, October 21st of 1965, there was a woman named Helen Schuckman, who was a professor of psychology at Columbia University, basically an agnostic bordering on atheist. So this was not someone who was into this kind of stuff, even though there wasn't much of this stuff around at that time at all anyway.
She wasn't only a professor, she was a professor of medical psychology on top of it.
That's right. She was a supreme intellectual at one of the most prestigious universities in the world and didn't believe any of this stuff. But she began having a rather unusual experience that she just couldn't understand, from her background. She began having visions, and then she heard a voice that was speaking to her, and as a psychologist, she knew what that usually meant, which was not good. And she also knew that, or felt, that the voice she was hearing was the voice of Jesus, because she was having some dreams associated with this as well. And, she went to her boss, whose name was William Thetford. The interesting thing about William Thetford is that he was the co-editor of the Journal of Abnormal Psychology. So here's a world-renowned...
I did not know that.
Yeah, world-renowned psychologist whose job is to research abnormal things like what is happening to Helen. And one day, the voice said to Helen, "This is a Course in Miracles. Please take notes."
Right.
So she went to Bill and said, "Well, what do you think I should do?" And he said, "Well, why don't you try and just see what happens?" And she did. She wrote down, and one of the very first things she wrote down was what you shared earlier, where it says, "This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." Now, none of them obviously really understood what that meant, but they knew it wasn't some strange psychological babble. So for the next 7 years, really the whole time resisting, fighting the whole experience, Helen wrote down what this voice said. And when it was complete, obviously she couldn't let anybody know about this. This was not going to help her career. If anything, it would end it.
Absolutely.
This world-renowned psychologist talking to Jesus for 7 years. But it wasn't until they shared it with a few people, one of whom was a Catholic priest and one was the grandson of Edgar Cayce. They read what she had brought through and said this could very well be the most important spiritual document in the history of the world. And so they began to share it. It ultimately got published, and since then it's been read by millions and millions of people, translated into 23 languages, and has changed countless lives. For myself, I know, in my long spiritual journey, there's never been anything that has come remotely close to it in terms of its transformation. And I love that story because it shows that, this was not someone who had anything to gain. This is someone who had everything to lose, and yet she followed through, and she brought forth this incredible document.
And it really bumped up against her belief system because wasn't she a bit of an atheist?
It didn't bump up against them; it shattered them altogether because she was Jewish by birth, but she was not a religious Jew at all. She certainly had no background with Jesus, and here she is talking to the guy for 7 years and writing down everything he says. So that's why we Course in Miracles students do believe that it came from that source. In fact, I say it, and I've heard so many people say it, and including in the movie A Course in Miracles, Dr. Diane Cercioni, who is married to Dr. Jerry Jampolsky, she says it. There's a professor at a university in Michigan that we interviewed who says that they all say, I don't know who else could have written this. This is so far beyond anything that a perceptual human being could do.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Absolutely.
That I don't think there's anyone else other than Jesus that could have written this.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It's cohesive, it's consistent, it's vibrantly alive, and it's profound spiritual truth.
And not only that, but a lot of people don't know. I'll back up and say that there is a meter or a poetic device called iambic pentameter.
I've heard about that. It's written in that modality, right?
Enormous portions of it, not the whole thing, but enormous portions. This is the same way that Shakespeare wrote, and it's in 10-syllable sections, and it is extremely difficult to write coherently, let alone with profound depth in iambic pentameter. It would take any normal person a very, very long time.
Well, certainly not someone from 1965, too, on top of that. They would be even more challenged, wouldn't you think?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think we're going to be challenged no matter what time we're in Shakespeare's time or now.
Right.
It doesn't. I don't think the time it really has anything to do with it. It's just the complexity of it. And yet here's Helen just writing down what this voice is saying. And later on, because she and Bill both love Shakespeare, they realize this isn't perfect iambic pentameter. I mean, who can write like that? In the movie, actually, we interviewed so many incredible people. And as you said, the movie is focused on the music, which I could probably share here. I have my guitar in my hand, so I could always share something live. But some of the people that we interviewed were Victor Wooten and his brothers Roy and Joseph, all of whom were extremely famous jazz musicians. And it was Roy Wooten, also known as Future Man, who was just over the moon when he discovered, the complexity of this verse and how cohesive it was. And once again, this is it came from another source. It came from out of time to this time because this is the time of the awakening. Right? The alarm clock is going off. I tell people all the time, if you think A Course in Miracles is a book, then you're lost. What it is a portal. It's a portal that pulls you in. And once you're in, you're not going to get it out of you until you awaken and are in the light.
Yeah. So when you first discovered the Course in Miracles, what was going on in your life? I know for me personally, I had purchased it 7 years prior to actually sitting down and taking it seriously and reading it and doing the lessons. And when I decided to do that, I was at a dark night of the soul moment within my own life. And so I'm just curious, because I hear quite often that the Course shows up in your life, the text of it at least, usually at pivotal moments. And so what was going on in your life, if anything, when you first encountered it?
I think my story is very similar to many, where you have to be ready for it. And I remember I was first exposed to it back in 1984 when I was only 22 years old. A woman I was dating who I ended up marrying, her mother had just left to move to Hawaii and gave Linda a copy of A Course in Miracles and said to her, if she was stranded on a desert island and she could only have one book with her, this would be it. Mm-hmm. And I was very impressed by that. And so I picked it up and began reading it. And I didn't get it at all. I just was completely lost. So that was it for years. And it was maybe 7 years later that I met a teacher in Wisconsin. And he was someone who was in the direct experience of the Living Course. Mm. And he spoke with such certainty and from such a place of knowing. And he taught only A Course in Miracles that it triggered me in a much deeper way. And from that moment on, my life has been dedicated to it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're coming up on another break, and I just want everyone to know that I have James Twyman here, and he has a brand new film that he is releasing this month in celebration of the 50-year anniversary of A Course in Miracles. And James is sharing his fantastic breadth of information and wisdom and his own personal experience and insight on the Course in Miracles. And we are going into another break. And when we return, we're going to continue this conversation. Please stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few moments.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on The Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. This is Sylvia Henderson with my special guest, James Twyman. We're talking about A Course in Miracles and his brand new documentary film, A Course in Miracles. So now, James, you are the producer and director of 5 films. This is your 6th one, is that correct?
That's correct.
So what about music and A Course in Miracles that you felt just had to be combined?
Well, first of all, I said right before the break that if you think that A Course in Miracles is a book, then you're going to be reading that book for a very long time. You can read the introduction if you want, and just if you fully experienced that, that would be all that you would need. You would instantly pop into that experience of light. And that's why I say that A Course in Miracles is not a book, it's a portal. But nothing really brings us into the experience, in my opinion, more than music. And I've always been a musician, and about a year ago I had the insight, the impulse to take the workbook, which has 365 lessons, and put music to every single one of them, and to create the musical workbook of A Course in Miracles. And it has been remarkable because there are thousands of people every day who are taking those lessons and listening to that music. And what they say is that it goes so much deeper when they sing the lessons rather than when they read it. St. Augustine in the 6th century said, when we sing, we pray twice.
Wow.
And so it's just such a much more deep, such a deep experience when we can enter into the music. So as I said, I have the guitar here, so maybe I should just play something and stop talking.
Okay. You have a few moments to do that.
All right, here we go. So this comes from the lesson, Beyond This World, There is a World That I Want. Beyond this world, there is a world I really want. I really want. Beyond this world, there is a world that I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I really want. I really want. Beyond this world, there is a world that I want. Is it really a loss to find a world where losing is impossible? To find all things you really want, and to know they have no ending, to know there is no end. Beyond this world, there is a world I really want. I really want. Beyond this world, there is a world that I want.
Wow, that is beautiful. So, okay, let me ask you this. For those who are not already signed up for the musical lessons, can they still do that?
Absolutely. They can start anytime.
How do they do that?
Well, all they need to do is to go to ACIM, which is A Course in Miracles, ACIMrevival.com, and then put /daily lesson. Daily lesson. So ACIMrevival.com/daily lesson. And you'll get an email every day, but there's also a page that you can go to if you want to start at lesson 1 and just begin the workbook right now.
Wonderful. And just out of curiosity, will this be available as a CD at some time, or?
Well, actually, there are 6 CDs.
Ah.
This has been quite a year for me with the movie, with the music, and the touring, and so many other things. But we're in the process of releasing 6 different CDs with the best music from the year, from the workbook, and so we've got 3 of them out already. And but if people are on that email list, they'll be hearing about that.
Oh, beautiful.
And of
That's
course, with the
wonderful.
movie, there's also a soundtrack. A lot of the music is in the movie. I would say 50% of A Course in Miracles is music. So we have a soundtrack album for that as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You've explained very clearly why it's a musical journey, and I love that. So what is the message that you most hope people receive from the movie?
Well, the message that I hope that people will receive is the experience, even for an instant, to enter into an experience that is wholly unlike anything they've ever known before. And that may seem like a very grand, very big goal, but I know that it's not only possible, but if you can open up and be receptive, that is exactly what will happen, because the frequency of A Course in Miracles is so heightened and profound that it alone can take you there instantly. I think of A Course in Miracles like a hologram. If you break up a hologram, the entire hologram is in each piece. And the same thing is true with the Course. If you were to take one paragraph and get that totally, then everything would change. I mean, literally, the world will disappear before your eyes. And that is especially true when it's put to music. The idea is that it gets stuck in your head, like that one lesson. Beyond this world, there is a world that I want. Imagine singing that all day long, or I am as God created me. That's in your head all day long because you start off the day singing that. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing that we want with the movie, for people to actually be, excited, to feel passion. That's the other thing, is to be lit on fire, because this is such an extraordinary time and it's such an extraordinary volume. And, if people can get on fire, then we're going to transform the whole world. I guarantee it.
So you mentioned something that is very commonly said amongst those of us who study A Course in Miracles, and that is the world will disappear before our eyes. And for those who have never picked up the Course in Miracles, they're probably wondering, what does he mean by that?
I actually mean it quite literally. This is, something that people sometimes struggle with, that Jesus in the Course is being completely literal. And the reason why we struggle with it is because it is so different than what we are used to. Just like when you are dreaming tonight and you're asleep, but you're in a world of dreams. If I were to come up to you in your dream and say, you realize this isn't real, right? You would look at me and say, what? You're crazy. Come on. I mean, look, I can touch this. I can talk to that person. You're in front of me. It's obviously very real. But it's only when you wake up in your bed and you look around and say, oh my gosh, that entire world I created in my mind. Well, Jesus tells us over and over, the world that you see is not the real world. There is a world that I want beyond this one. But it's a concept until you have the experience. But there does come a point where the tumblers fall into place, that experience is present, and the world that you thought was real suddenly disappears, and you realize that beyond that is something so much more wonderful, your true home, the real world, and that is where Jesus is leading us.
And so in your own personal walk in spirituality, how close are you to that experience?
I've often said that if anyone says to another, follow me, to run, but if they say, follow thee, in other words, follow the truth within yourself, that this is the message. And so I would never try and draw attention to myself and say I am in that full experience all the time. I can certainly say that experience is an experience that I know very well, but it's about consistency at that point. Like any other human being, I fall into my own human emotions. But through the Course, I'm becoming more and more consistent with being in that miraculous state of consciousness, hopefully all the time.
That's beautiful. So this state of consciousness, it's not something we really see with our physical eyes. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
And in fact, Jesus would say in the Course that the physical eyes were made not to see, that there is a spiritual awakening, a way of seeing through the eyes of Christ. Now, some people have a problem initially with some of the Christian terminology or some of the masculine pronouns, but it really is not set up in the typical religious way that we're used to. As I said before, the way that it describes the Christ is not as just one person that lived 2,000 years ago. It's challenging you to enter into the Christ current of your own life. It is challenging you to see through the eyes of the Christ consciousness, which is within you now. And so this is really what the Course is about, for you to realize that I am one with God. And if I am one with God, then there's nothing that Jesus could do that I cannot do. There's nothing that I can see with my spiritual eyes that was not seen by Jesus or any other awakened master. And so this really is a course in miracles, in miraculous vision, because when we see this within ourselves, then we see it everywhere. And that's the key. I often say that you'll know an enlightened person when all they see is that. When all they see is that awakening or that enlightenment in everyone, regardless of how they act.
That is it, isn't it? Losing the judgments.
Yes, it sure is.
Wow. Wow. It's really interesting because little children, they don't come in here judging typically. And we teach them.
Yes, right. We learn this because we have been convinced that this is a real world and we have to guard ourselves, we have to protect ourselves. But what if that guarding and that protecting is the very thing that has kept us locked in a prison cell that has never been locked?
Right.
I sometimes tell the story about, a man who's been in this prison cell for decades, and every day a huge burly guy, the jailer, comes and he brings him food, he opens the door, and then he leaves. And one day this prisoner decides, even if I die trying, I'm going to get out. And so he stands next to that prison door and he waits for this man to come and realize the door was never locked. He leans against it, it opens by itself.
That is a profound spiritual truth, my friend. We're going into another break, everyone. Please stay tuned. We will return in just a few moments. I have my special guest, James Twyman, here. You're listening to Sylvia Henderson on Intuitive Transformations.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Welcome to The Gathering Around My Kitchen Table on Equilarium FM, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join my guests as we integrate spirituality into everyday reality with vibrant conversations, inspired interviews, and my latest channeled guidance to inspire and brighten your day. I'm Claire Johnson, and together we'll be raising vibrations across the nations.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Intuitive Transformations. I have with me here my very special guest, James Twyman. If you're just tuning in, make sure you download this show as a podcast and listen to the entire show, because if you're just tuning in, then you missed a very special impromptu moment with James singing the most beautiful heart-opening song that I've ever heard. So please make sure that you listen to the entire show, download it, like it on Facebook, share it with your friends and your family. Someone needs to hear this message that you know. So be sure to do that. James has a brand new film that he is releasing this month. There are special screenings that are going to be held between October 21st and October 25th as James joins thousands across the country, the United States, in celebration of the 50-year anniversary of A Course in Miracles. And he's even going to have his own world premiere that's going to be held at the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living in Lake Oswego, Oregon on October 16th. So, James, how can people get details, tickets? Where do they need to go?
Well, the first thing is you can just check with your own Unity Church or Center of Spiritual Living. Those are the churches that will be showing the movie. There are about 300 of them around the country that will be showing the film. So they can just check locally. We very soon are going to have a listing up on that site I mentioned before, acimrevival.com,
Great.
where people can go look and they can see for themselves. But you can call your church and if they were to get through right away and if they're not showing it, they could still probably get on board. We're shipping out the DVDs next week. As you said, there are going to be thousands and thousands of people all throughout North America and Europe showing the film. And then it'll be available. If you want to get the DVD, you can go to beyondword.com. Beyond Words Publishing will be publishing that and the soundtrack and just spreading this message far and wide.
Great. Fantastic. And that's not on the show bio page right now, but I'm going to make sure that all of those links are available starting tomorrow. And just so you know, the podcast as well will be available tomorrow, the replay of this show. So, James, you traveled all around the world and you've given your peace performances in war-torn areas. And so when you look at the world today, given the intense appearance of fear, lack, scarcity, anger, hatred, and everything else that's opposite of love, have we gotten farther away or closer to dissolving the illusion of separation and fear?
Well, I like to believe that the only one that really needs to get this is me. To keep bringing it back, not expecting the world to change, but to know that as I shift, then the world changes on its own. And that has certainly been true of my experiences, more love, more passion in my life than I've ever experienced before. And so I think to answer your question, then the answer would be yes, that I think that we are on an evolutionary track at this moment. And often in a situation like this, there's more chaos and more shadow than there was before because there is this sort of tug of a war going on. And yet I know that, as A Course in Miracles says, that the ending is sure. And yet to continue to bring it back to my own decision, to bring it back to my own awareness that I'm the only one that needs to get this. And if I can do that, then the rest happens on its own.
Beautiful. It really is a one by one, but it's also that we do, the whole body returns, right? In order for us all, for us to
Well,
all awaken.
Ramakrishna once said something that I've always loved. He said, being in your life, trying to wake up other people is like being in your dream tonight and saying, I'm not going to wake up until I wake up everybody in my dream. If you think that you're going to be there for a very long time,
that would be hard to do.
Only one that needs to get this is me, because then I see it everywhere.
Right.
And it comes down to such simple truths. The biggest one that I have ever experienced is that if I want to have something in my life, I need to be the source of that for another. And There's another song I would just love to share because I just love singing this. And I think, once again, this communicates the message so much better than anything I could ever say with words. And this actually came from a prayer from Mother Teresa. So I'm looking at the clock. Looks like we maybe have 2 or 3 more minutes here. So
please do. Please share.
All right.
We have time.
So this is a song that Mother Teresa, or a prayer that she wrote that I put to music called the Servant Prayer. When I am hungry, give me someone that I can feed. And when I am thirsty, show me someone who needs a drink. And when I'm cold, give me someone to keep warm. And when I grieve, give me someone to console. When my cross grows too heavy and its weight I cannot bear, and when I need someone to hold me, and it seems no one is there to lighten up my heavy load, give me someone who deserves to be loved just as I do. Give me someone that I can serve, someone that I can serve.
Wow, goosebumps. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Just
half of the song, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, beautiful. Isn't that? That's pretty much a constant theme in most spiritual teachings, isn't it?
Well, truth is true, and if it is not a theme in a spiritual teaching, then it's a limiting path that is really focused on the self with a small s and the self with a capital S. And I mean, the teaching is ultimately that we are one with God, and there's only one of us here. There's only one extension of the love and the loveliness of God, and that's you. And that's the consciousness that is hearing this right now. And the only way for me to know that and experience that is to share that or to give it away, to be the source of it. Like the prayer of St. Francis says, it is in giving that we receive. It is in loving that we are loved. We have to see this. We have to give this if we are to know it about ourselves.
Yeah. We're just all individual expressions of the one, like waves upon an ocean.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So, gosh, I can't believe we're running out of time. Oh, my
goes
goodness.
Quick, doesn't
it does. It goes so, so fast. So I just want to encourage everyone who's listening. First of all, I would sign up definitely for the 365 lessons to music because, as you can tell.
Why not? It doesn't even cost anything. Well, I should say it costs everything. It doesn't cost any money.
It just might change your life, right?
It'll cost every perception you've ever had, and that's a good thing.
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's something that you're offering as a gift of love from your heart. And as you listening can tell, the caliber of the music is absolutely outstanding. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that. And that is acimrevival.com. Is that correct, James?
acimrevival.com/daily lessons.
Daily lessons. Thank you for...
No, daily lesson, no S at the end.
Oh.
Just daily lesson.
All right, daily lesson, singular. Mm-hmm. And then contact your Unity Church or Center for Spiritual Living and find out if they are airing the A Course in Miracles. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, then connect them with James's website and make that happen so that your community can appreciate this, the premiere of this showing later this month in October.
And if not, you can just go to beyondword.com and you can get a copy of the film right there after the premiere.
Beautiful, because there's more than James in this movie. There's a 5-time Grammy Award-winning artist, 2 of them, Victor Wooten and Roy Wooten, and Emmy Award-winning composer Gary Malkin, and spiritual thought leader, best-selling authors Jerry Jampolsky, and Colette Barron-Reed, and also James himself. And so there's going to be never-before-released original music compilations, and also getting real on city streets around the nation. That sounds like fun.
And I am going to be at several of the screenings myself. You mentioned the one here in Lake Oswego and Portland area. So if you live here, just check that out. That'll be on the 16th. That's the big world premiere. And then on the 18th, I will be at the Unity in San Diego doing the services and then showing the movie then in the afternoon. And then for the big event, I'm going to be on the East Coast up in Massachusetts and Amesbury for Unity on the River, and then the Unity in Boston on Sunday.
Fantastic. James, thank you so much for joining me on the show, for your beautiful music, for your contribution, and for the beautiful light that you are in the world.
Oh, thank you for having me on the program, Sylvia.
It's been a delight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember, I'll be here again next week. Same time, same channel, and bringing to you a different point of view about vaccinations and autism. You might want to tune in, especially if someone you know or love is affected by this. Have a great week. Thank you for coming in and listening. Bye-bye.